The man at the bank asked me twice. "You sure you want that old Bennett place?" he said. I nodded. "It's cheap. I need land, not company." He laughed under his breath. "Company's all you'll get. That farm's cursed with memories." I signed the paper anyway. I wasn't afraid of memories. I carried enough of my own. The wagon creaked up the hill that afternoon. The sky was the color of dust. I saw the house before the fence, gray wood leaning a little as if tired of standing. The fields were brown and flat. No sound but the wind, I told myself. Silence. That's what I came for. The door groaned when I pushed it open. Inside, the air smelled of hay, rain, and something old, like sorrow left too long. There was a chair turned sideways, a cup still on the table, and a child's shoe near the hearth. I stood there a long time. "This'll do," I muttered. I set my things by the door and went room to room. Cobwebs, dust, broken glass, but under it all I could still feel life. Whoever left here hadn't gone far, or hadn't gone willing. By sunset, I had my bedroll by the window and a fire going. The crackle of wood almost sounded like a voice. For a second I thought I heard a whisper, faint and small. I froze, then silence again. I rubbed my face and laughed. "You're hearing ghosts now, Tom," I told myself. The next day I worked the yard. The ground was hard as stone. The fence needed fixing. A rusty plow leaned against the barn, half buried in weeds. The barn doors hung crooked, one hinge missing. I peered inside, empty stalls, a broken ladder, sunlight cutting through holes in the roof. It smelled of dust and time. "Quiet enough," I said. "Just how I like it." Around noon I walked to town for supplies. Martha Cole at the store looked up and frowned. "Tom Grady," she said. "Heard you bought the Bennett farm." "I did," I said. Her hands paused over the counter. "You didn't hear about them, did you?" "I heard the husband died," I said. "Nothing else." She nodded slowly. "Poor Clara. Sheriff took the land after the funeral. Said the debts were too much. Folks said she left town." "Left?" I asked. "That's what they say," she said. But nobody saw her go. I felt something twist in my chest, but I said nothing. I paid, tipped my hat, and headed back. The road was quiet. Not a bird, not a voice. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. When I reached the farm, the sun was bleeding red over the hills. I carried the flour sack into the house and stopped. The door was open. I was sure I had closed it. I stepped inside slowly. "Hello?" Nothing. A shadow moved near the window, small, quick. My hand went to my knife. "Who's there?" Silence. I heard something. A creak, soft and careful. It came from the barn. I grabbed my lantern. My boots hit the dirt, slow, steady. The air smelled faintly of hay and smoke. The barn door stood half open, swaying in the wind. I lifted the lantern high. "I know someone's in there." Still nothing. I stepped inside. The floor creaked under my weight. Dust floated in the light. I moved past the empty stalls. A ladder led up to the loft. Something scurried. Then I heard breathing, shallow, fast. "Come out," I said. "Now." No one moved. I climbed one rung, then another. The lantern's flame flickered. I raised it toward the hay bales. Two eyes glinted back. I froze. A small figure crouched in the shadows, then another beside it. Children. A boy, maybe 10, holding a pitchfork handle like a weapon. A little girl behind him clutching his sleeve. The boy's voice shook. "Please don't tell." I stared at them, my hand tightening on the lantern. "Tell who?" He swallowed. "The sheriff." The girl whispered, "Please." They were filthy, faces streaked with dirt, hair tangled, clothes torn. Their eyes looked older than they should. I lowered the lantern. "You live here?" The boy hesitated. "We ain't got nowhere else." My throat felt dry. "This farm's mine now." He stood taller, trying to look brave. It was ours first. For a second, I saw myself years ago, angry, proud, alone. "What's your name?" I asked. "Eli," he said. "And that's Lily." The little girl peeked out from behind him. Her eyes were wide, bright, full of fear and something else. Hope. "How long you been here?" I asked. Eli looked at the floor. "Since Ma went away." My stomach dropped. "Went away?" He nodded. "She said she'd come back." "She didn't." I felt my chest tighten. "When was that?" He shrugged. "Before the snow, so months." They'd been living here through winter. Alone. I looked around. The hay, the blankets piled in the corner, a tin plate, half a candle. I whispered, "You've been hiding from the sheriff?" Eli nodded. "He said he'd take us." "Take you where?" He didn't answer. Lily started crying softly. I set the lantern down. "It's all right," I said. "You don't need to run," Eli's eyes flashed. "You'll tell him." "I won't," I said. "Everyone says men lie," he snapped. I sighed. "They do, but I don't have reason to." He didn't move. The lantern flame shook between us. Lily's small voice broke the silence. "Are you going to make us go?" I looked at her. She couldn't have been more than 6. Her hair was golden under the lantern light. I opened my mouth, but no words came. Eli said, "You bought it. It's yours now. We'll leave in the morning." I shook my head. "You won't last a day out there." "We can hide," he said. "You've done enough hiding." He glared at me. "You don't know nothing about it." "Maybe not," I said. "But I know cold nights. I know hunger." Lily sniffled. "We're not bad, mister." I knelt beside them. The boy stepped back, still guarding her. "I didn't say you were," I said softly. "I just need to understand." He stared at me, unsure. Then he whispered, "Ma said never trust a stranger." I nodded. "She's a smart woman." His eyes flickered. She was. The word was hit hard. I felt the ache in his voice. "Eli," I said, "I'm not here to hurt you." He didn't reply. I stood, walked to the stall, and blew out the lantern halfway. The light dimmed, softer now. "I'll go back to the house. You stay here tonight. We'll talk in the morning." "You mean it?" Lily asked. "I mean it," I said. Eli frowned. "Why?" "Because it's late," I said. "And I don't like sending people into the dark." He said nothing. His small hands tightened on the stick. I walked to the door. "There's bread and apples in the kitchen. Take what you need." No answer. When I stepped outside, the night was heavy. The stars hung low, bright over the black fields. I looked back once. The barn was dark again. I whispered, "What in God's name did I walk into?" Inside the house, I sat by the dying fire. The chair creaked as I leaned back. 2 children, alone, a mother gone. A sheriff who wanted silence. The flames flickered low. I could almost hear the wind breathing through the cracks. I thought of the boy's words. "Please don't tell." I looked toward the barn through the window. It stood still, black against the moonlight. Somewhere inside, 2 children tried to sleep. I set my jaw and said quietly, "You're safe tonight." But even as I said it, I wasn't sure if it was true. The wind shifted, carrying the faint sound of crying, or maybe it was just the barn creaking. Either way, I knew I wouldn't sleep. The farm I bought for silence had just found its voice. The lantern light flickered against the barn walls as I stared at the 2 children. Hay stuck to their hair. Their eyes, one brown, one green, were wide with fear. "Who are you?" I said. My voice came out rougher than I meant. The boy pulled his sister closer. "Don't hurt us," he said. "I won't," I said. "But you can't hide here. This is my land." The boy's chin lifted. It was ours first. His words hit harder than I wanted to admit. "Where are your parents?" The boy didn't answer. The little girl whispered, "Ma's gone." I felt my stomach tighten. "Gone where?" The boy looked away. "Don't know. She said she'd come back." I looked around. A blanket lay in the corner, a half-eaten loaf of bread beside it. "How long have you been hiding here?" 2 weeks, the boy said quietly. The girl hugged a stuffed rabbit. "We waited." "Waited for what?" I asked. "For Ma," she said. The wind outside pushed against the barn doors. The sound made the boy flinch. I sighed. "You can't stay here alone." "We're not alone," he said. I frowned. "You just said your ma's gone." He didn't reply. The girl sniffed and pressed her face into his shirt. I rubbed the back of my neck. "What's your name, son?" "Eli." "And hers?" "Lily." "Eli and Lily," I said slowly. "All right. I'm Tom. Tom Grady." The boy stared like the name meant nothing. "You the man who took the farm?" I froze. "Bought the farm," I said. "Didn't take it." He looked down at the dirt. "Same thing." I wanted to argue, but something in his voice stopped me. I sighed again. "Look, it's late. You can stay the night. But tomorrow, we'll be gone," he said quickly. I nodded. Good. But it didn't feel good. I didn't sleep much that night. I sat by the fire in the cabin, listening to the wind and thinking about those 2 faces in the hay. The silence I'd wanted so badly now felt wrong. Empty. When dawn came, I carried a piece of bread and some water to the barn. The children were gone. Only the stuffed rabbit sat on the blanket. "Damn it," I muttered. I followed the tracks outside. Small footprints led toward the tree line. The morning mist still hung low over the field. My boots crunched in the frost as I followed. Then I saw her. A woman stood half-hidden behind a pine tree. Pale, trembling, hair tangled and wet with dew. Her dress was torn at the hem. Her eyes met mine, and I knew she was their mother. "You," I said softly. She didn't speak. Just watched me like I might strike her. "I'm not the sheriff," I said. Her lips parted. "You own this land?" "Yes." Her eyes filled with tears. "Then you own me too." I shook my head. "That's not how it works." She stepped out slowly, holding Lily's hand. Eli followed, glaring at me. The woman's voice trembled. "We didn't steal anything. We were just trying to stay warm." "I didn't say you stole." "You didn't have to," she said. I studied her face. Thin, tired, but strong underneath. "What's your name?" "Clara Bennett," I nodded. "And your husband?" She swallowed. "He's gone." "How?" She looked down. "The sheriff said it was an accident. But you don't believe that." She shook her head slowly. "No." We stood there a long moment, the wind cold between us. I finally said, "You can't stay in the barn. It's not safe. We have nowhere else. There's a boarding house in town. They won't take us." "The sheriff told them not to." I frowned. "Why would he do that?" She hesitated. "Because of the debt." "What debt?" "My husband borrowed money after the drought," she said, "to keep the farm alive. He signed papers. Then he died, and the sheriff said the farm was his. He sold it to you." I felt a strange ache in my chest. I didn't know. Her eyes softened a little. "You didn't have to." I thought it was abandoned. "It was," she whispered. "By the law." I looked toward the barn. "You built this place?" "My husband did," she said quietly. "Every board, every nail." Her hand brushed the wood as if touching a ghost. Eli stepped forward. "We ain't leaving, mister. Eli," she began, but he glared at me, defiant. "You can do what you want," he said, "but we're staying." I met his stare. "You're brave. But bravery won't keep you warm." He didn't blink. "It kept us alive." The girl tugged on her mother's skirt. "Ma, I'm cold." Clara knelt and wrapped her arms around her. "I know, sweetheart. Just a little longer." I exhaled slowly. "You all hungry?" Eli didn't answer. Clara looked away. "We'll be fine." "I didn't ask that," I said. "I asked if you're hungry." She hesitated. Then she nodded once. "Wait here," I said. I went back to the cabin, grabbed bread, jerky, and a pot of coffee. When I returned, they were still standing by the tree as if expecting me to chase them off. "Here," I said, setting the food down on a crate near the barn. Clara stared at it. "You didn't have to." "I know," I said. "Eat anyway." Eli eyed me, then tore off a piece of bread for his sister. She smiled faintly as she chewed. Clara finally took a sip of coffee. Her hands shook. "You from around here?" I asked. "No," she said. "We came after the war. My husband thought land meant safety." "Did it?" "For a while." I sat down on the crate. "I lost a farm once. Different reason, same pain." She looked at me then. "You lost it?" "And more," I said quietly. "My wife." "My boy." Her eyes widened, but she said nothing. "Fire took them," I said. "I bought this place to forget." "And found us instead," she whispered. "Guess so." The silence between us grew softer. Finally, she stood. "We'll go soon. I promise." "Where?" She didn't answer. "You can stay in the barn a few days," I said. "Just until you figure things out." Eli scowled. "Why are you helping us?" "Because someone should have helped me once." He looked away, biting his lip. Clara's voice broke the stillness. "The sheriff won't like it. Then he can ride out and tell me himself." She gave a small, tired laugh. "You're not afraid of him?" "I've lost too much to be afraid." She studied me quietly, then said, "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," I muttered. "Just stay alive." That evening the sun sank behind the hills. I saw Clara and the children sitting near the barn fire, sharing the last of the bread. For the first time I heard laughter, faint but real. It felt strange, like the sound didn't belong here anymore. I leaned against the porch rail, watching them. The girl pointed toward the sky. "Look, Ma, stars!" Clara smiled. "They were always there, sweetheart. We just forgot to look." I turned my eyes upward too. The stars looked sharper that night, as if the sky itself was listening. Inside, I poured myself a drink. The room smelled of pine and smoke. I could still hear the children outside whispering. Their voices reminded me of my own boy, how he used to hum before bed. I rubbed my face hard, trying to push the memory away. A knock came at the door. When I opened it, Clara stood there, holding the empty pot. "We cleaned up," she said. "Thank you for the meal." "You didn't have to bring that back tonight," I said. "I didn't want to owe more than I already do." "You don't owe me anything." She looked at me for a long moment. "That's not true. You gave us one more night." Her voice cracked on the word night. I felt something twist in my chest. "Clara," I said quietly, "you and your children. You can stay a bit longer, just until spring." Her eyes widened. "You mean that?" "I do." Tears filled her eyes, but she blinked them away. "We'll work. I can cook, clean." "I didn't ask for payment," I said. "Then why?" I didn't have an answer. Finally, I said, "Maybe because I need to remember what kindness feels like." She nodded slowly. "Then maybe we both do." I watched her walk back toward the barn. The moonlight touched her hair, turning it silver at the edges. The two children ran to her, wrapping their arms around her waist. For a moment, they looked like a family again. And for the first time since my own was buried, I didn't feel entirely alone. The wind moved through the grass, whispering something I couldn't quite hear. Maybe forgiveness, maybe hope. Either way, it was enough to keep the lantern burning a little longer. The sun came up slow that morning, the air cold and still. I made coffee and watched the fog drift across the field. The house was quiet, but I knew they were still in the barn. I walked out, boots crunching frost, and pushed open the door. They were huddled under old blankets, the woman sitting upright with her children pressed against her sides. "You can't stay here," I said. She looked up, eyes tired and red. "Please, just a few days," she whispered. I shook my head. "This isn't your land anymore." The boy stood. "You can't make us go." I met his glare. "I can. But I won't, not yet," he frowned. "You mean it?" "I mean," I said, "you'll talk to me first." "Then we'll see." The woman pulled him back. "Eli, stop." I stepped closer. "You got a name?" "Clara," she said quietly. "Clara Bennett," I nodded. "Tom Grady." She held my gaze for a moment. "I know who you are." "Then you know I bought this place fair," I said. "Yes," she said. "You bought what was left of our life." Her words hit hard. I looked away. "You should have gone to town. The sheriff said he'd help," she said bitterly. "He lied, took our money and said the land was gone. We had nowhere else." The girl stirred, rubbing her eyes. "Mama, I'm hungry." Clara stroked her hair. "I know, sweetheart," I sighed. "When did you last eat?" "Yesterday morning," she said. "Wait here," I said. I went back to the house, grabbed bread and a jar of honey, then came back. I handed them over. The kids stared like it was gold. Lily whispered, "Thank you, mister." I nodded. "Eat slow." They ate in silence. I leaned on the wall watching. The air smelled of hay and dust. Clara finally spoke. "I'll find work. I'll pay you back." "I don't need money," I said. "Then why help us?" "Because I can," I said simply. Her eyes softened. "You don't know what that means to me." I shrugged. "Don't thank me yet." "You'll still have to go." "When?" she asked. "When the snow ends," I said. "After winter." She nodded, quiet. "Thank you." The boy frowned. "Why wait? Why not just send us now?" "Because I'm not heartless," I said. He looked at me long. "You sound like you are." I almost smiled. "Maybe I am." The boy went back to his food. The woman smiled faintly. "He misses his father," she said. "Don't we all miss someone?" I asked. She looked down. "You lost someone too?" "My wife," I said. "Years ago." Her eyes met mine. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," I said. "We all live with ghosts." For a while no one spoke. Only the wind pushed through the cracks. Then Clara said softly, "We can help. I can clean, cook, whatever you need. Eli can fetch wood." "You'll stay in the barn," I said. "Not the house." "Of course," she said quickly. "We're grateful just to stay warm." I nodded. "Then that's settled." Her shoulders dropped with relief. The girl smiled for the first time. "Thank you, Mr. Grady," Lily said. I looked away. "Just Tom's fine." Later that day, I fixed the barn roof. The boards were rotten, full of holes. Every nail I drove felt like a promise I hadn't planned to make. Clara came out carrying a tin of coffee. "You should rest," she said. "I work better tired," I said. She smiled faintly. "You remind me of my husband." I stopped hammering. "That so?" "He never sat still either," she said. I said nothing. The wind whistled through the open boards. Why did you really buy this place? She asked. Needed work, needed quiet, I said. Silence can be loud, she said softly. Not for me, I said. I like not hearing much. Maybe you got used to it, she said. Maybe, I said. She leaned on the rail, watching me. Do you ever miss them? Every day, I said. But missing don't bring them back. No, she said. It doesn't. Her eyes glistened, but she looked away. I handed her a hammer. Here, I said. You can help, she blinked. You trust me with that? Not really, I said, but I'm tired of doing it alone. She laughed softly. Fair enough. For the first time, her laugh didn't sound like fear. By evening, the roof held steady. The barn smelled of wood and hay again. The children chased each other near the fence. Their laughter echoed, small but alive. Clara stood beside me, arms crossed. They haven't laughed like that in months. Kids bounce back, I said. They shouldn't have to, she said. No one should, I replied. She looked at me. You're kinder than you pretend. I shook my head. Just older. Older doesn't mean colder, she said. Sometimes it does, I said. She smiled. Not with you, I turned away. Don't say that. Why not? Because it's not true, I said quietly. She didn't argue. Just looked toward her children and whispered, thank you anyway. That night I sat by the fire in my house. The walls creaked, wind howled outside. Through the window, I saw the lantern still burning in the barn. I should have blown it out myself, but I let it stay. Toby, my old dog, lay by my feet. I reached down and scratched his head. You think I did right? I asked him. He thumped his tail. Yeah, I said. Maybe. The door creaked open. Clara stood there holding a small tin. I'm sorry, she said quickly. The wind pushed it open. It's fine, I said. You need something? She stepped closer. I made stew. It isn't much, but... She stopped when she saw the table set with one plate. I was going to eat alone, I said. She smiled shyly. Then maybe you shouldn't. I stared at the bowl she held. Thin broth, a few potatoes, hardly food. Still, it smelled good. You and the kids eat yet? I asked. They had theirs, she said. I saved a bit for you. I hesitated, then nodded. All right. She poured it into my bowl and sat across from me. The firelight flickered between us. You don't have to thank me, I said. I'm not, she said. I just didn't want you to eat alone. I looked at her, tired, worn, but still gentle. You always this stubborn? Only when I need to be, she said. Then I pity whoever crosses you, I said. She smiled. That used to be my husband, I paused. He treat you right? She looked down. He tried. Life didn't. Silence filled the room again, heavy but not cold. After a while, she stood. Thank you for letting us stay. Don't thank me, I said. It's just winter. She smiled sadly. Sometimes winter's long. Then she left, closing the door softly behind her. I didn't sleep much. Around midnight, I walked back to the barn. The lantern had burned low. The children slept close to her, her arm around them both. She looked peaceful for once. I leaned on the door frame, watching quietly. Something in me eased. Don't get used to it, I whispered to myself. It's just until spring. But even as I said it, I knew I was lying. The air outside was cold, the stars sharp and bright. For the first time in years, the land didn't feel empty. I walked back to the house, my breath white in the dark. Inside, the fire still glowed faint. I poured myself another cup of coffee, sat by the window, and listened to the wind. Somewhere out there, a woman and her children were sleeping in my barn, and for reasons I couldn't explain, I felt less alone. I was fixing the fence when I saw dust rising on the road. The sound of hooves came slow, steady, proud. I wiped sweat from my face and watched a dark horse stop by the gate. Sheriff Pike sat tall in the saddle, dressed all neat, boots shining like sin. His badge caught the sunlight. He grinned when he saw me. Well, look who bought himself trouble, he said. I leaned on the fence post. Afternoon, Sheriff. Afternoon, my foot. He spat to the side. You bought the Bennett land. That's right. He looked around, eyes narrow, sharp. You know what you bought? Land, I said. That's all I paid for. He laughed. Land, sure. But you also bought a ghost. This place don't come clean, Grady. I clean my own mess. His smile faded. That widow's still hanging around, ain't she? I didn't answer. He shook his head, clicking his tongue.
You don't know what you stepped in.
Her husband owed me money. Big money. He died before he paid. Now she thinks she can stay and cry her way out of it. I crossed my arms. That so? That's so. His horse shifted, stamping the dirt. I told her to sell this place and settle the debt. But she refused. Now she's trespassing on what's mine. What's yours? I asked. Last I checked, I got the papers. He grinned again, thin and mean. You think paper means truth in this town? I didn't like his tone. Paper's what I paid for. He looked around again, slow, then back at me. You always were a fool for pity, Grady. You see a sad face and think you can fix it. But folks like her, they'll use you till you're dry. I didn't say anything. He liked the sound of his own voice too much. He leaned forward on the saddle. Let me make it simple. That woman's bad luck. Her man gambled, drank, and died owing me a pile of dollars. She's just looking for another fool to keep her alive. I kept my voice calm. You done? He chuckled. Not yet. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded paper. Here, debt record, signed by Henry Bennett. His name's right there, and I got a witness. I took the paper. It was old, stained and smudged. The writing looked shaky. The signature was rough, uneven. He signed this before he died? I asked. Few days before, he said. Heart gave out after. Shame, really. Poor man. I handed the paper back. I'll look into it. He gave a small laugh. You do that. But I'd watch yourself. That woman brings ruin. Ask anyone. I'll ask her, I said. He stared at me, long and quiet. Suit yourself. Don't say I didn't warn you. He turned his horse, dust rising again, and rode away slow. I watched him until he disappeared down the trail. The land was still after that. Too still. Even the wind felt uneasy. When I went back inside, Clara was standing by the door. Her face was pale. She'd been listening. You talked to him, she said. I did. Her voice trembled. What did he say? I took off my hat. He said Henry owed him money. Said your husband signed a debt paper before he died. Her hands went to her mouth. That's not true, I nodded. You're sure? She stepped closer, eyes wide. Henry never owed him anything. The sheriff made him sign those papers. He said if Henry didn't, we'd lose the farm. He made him sign when he was sick. I frowned. Forced him? Yes. Henry was too weak to stand. The sheriff came with 2 men. He said it was just to confirm the land papers. But when Henry read them, he said it wasn't right. Pike told him if he didn't sign, they'd take the house that night. I clenched my fists. And he signed? She nodded. He signed. Then 2 days later, he died. Her voice broke. She looked down, shaking. I tried to tell people, she whispered. But no one believed me. He runs this town. Even the judge listens when he talks. I stared at the floor. My anger burned slow, quiet, deep. Did you ever see those papers again? I asked. She shook her head. No, he took them. Said he'd keep them safe. Safe for him, I said. She looked up at me, desperate. You believe me, don't you? I met her eyes. I do. Her shoulders fell. For a second, she almost smiled. Then her son, Eli, came in. His clothes were dirty from the field. He looked at both of us. Was that the sheriff? Yes, I said. Eli's eyes narrowed. He's the one who took Pa's things. Clara tried to calm him. Eli, no, Ma, he said, voice rising. He came after Pa died. Took the horses, the tools. Said Pa owed him for feed. He laughed when Ma cried. I looked at him. The boy's hands were tight fists. You saw that yourself? I asked. Yes, he said. I'll never forget it. I nodded. You did good remembering. He glared toward the door. If I ever see him again? Eli. Clara cut in, firm but soft. Enough. He turned away, muttering. I spoke low. You shouldn't stay here alone. Not while he's watching. She shook her head. I can't leave. This land's all I have. I understood that. I'd said the same once long ago. Then we'll stay careful, I said. She looked at me, searching my face. Why are you helping us? I hesitated, because no one helped me. She didn't ask what that meant. Maybe she knew better than to press. I went outside, needing air. The sky was red with evening. The smell of dust and sun filled the air. Somewhere far, a coyote cried. I walked to the fence again, thinking about that paper, about the sheriff's grin. Something didn't fit. Henry Bennett, signed while dying. A man too weak to speak his own defense. I could almost see it. Pike standing over him, smiling, telling him to sign or starve. The thought made my stomach twist. Later, Clara came outside with a lamp. The light made her face glow warm against the dark. You're thinking again, she said. Can't stop, I replied. I used to think too much, she said softly. Then I learned it doesn't help. Sometimes it does, I said. Sometimes it finds truth. She stepped closer. Do you think we'll ever be free of him? I looked at the sky. Men like him don't stop till they're stopped. She didn't answer, just held the lamp tighter. The wind caught her hair, blowing it across her face. Henry was scared of him, she whispered. Said the sheriff knew everyone's secrets. Said he had something on every man in town. I turned to her. Maybe it's time someone had something on him. She blinked, unsure. What do you mean? If he forced Henry to sign, there might be proof. Maybe a witness. Maybe a letter, she frowned. You think there's evidence? Men like him always leave trails, I said. They think they're too clever to be caught. Her eyes met mine. Would you help me find it? Yes, she exhaled, long and shaky. Then maybe God sent you here. Or maybe he sent me because I needed something to do, I said. Her lips curved into a sad smile. Whatever the reason, thank you. She went back inside, but I stayed out. The night grew cold. Stars lit the sky one by one. I leaned on the fence, looking toward the road. The sheriff's shadow still lingered in my mind, long and heavy. I thought of his smug face, his clean boots, his fake papers. And then I thought of Henry, a man I never knew, signing his name in fear. The law was a fine thing on paper. But in a place like this, power was the only truth. Still, I'd seen lies fall before. It just took time. From the house, I heard Eli's voice. Ma, can I keep the lantern by my bed? Of course, she said softly. There's nothing to fear. But there was. The sheriff's warning echoed in my head. You bought more trouble than land. Maybe he was right. But trouble was better than silence. I looked at the old house, its windows glowing faint in the dark. It wasn't much. But inside, there was life again. Voices, warmth, the sound of hope trying to live. And I wasn't about to let anyone take that away. I went to the porch, kicked off my boots, and sat down. The boards creaked under my weight. Somewhere far off I heard a horse. Slow, one rider. My heart tightened. I waited, hand near my belt. But the sound faded, turning down the other road. I let out a breath and leaned back. Tomorrow, I'd ride into town. I'd talk to the clerk, maybe see if anyone else had signed papers like Henry. If the sheriff thought he could scare me off, he was wrong. This land wasn't just mine anymore. It was theirs too, and I'd protect it, even if it meant war. I spent the morning fixing the kitchen floor. The wood had rotted near the stove, soft like wet paper. The hammer felt heavy in my hand, but the silence felt heavier. Clara stood by the table, washing jars. The smell of soap and dust mixed in the air. Don't step here, I said, pointing with the hammer. It'll crack. She nodded, quiet. You fix everything, she said. Trying to, I muttered. Doesn't mean I'm good at it. She gave a small smile, the first one in days. Better than most men I knew. I looked down. That's not saying much. She didn't reply. The kids were outside feeding the chickens. The morning wind carried their laughter through the broken window. I pried up the first plank, then another. Dust rose thick and gray. I coughed and leaned back. Find anything? Clara asked. Just mold and mouse bones. I forced a small grin. Nothing worth keeping. She wiped her hands on her skirt and came closer. Strange, she said. He used to hide things under there. My husband, I froze. Hide things? She knelt down beside me. Letters, coins, a small box maybe? Her voice trembled. Said it was for safety. I scraped my hand across the next plank. Something caught. A nail bent sideways. Underneath, the wood felt uneven. Hollow. There's something here, I whispered. Clara leaned closer. What is it? I pulled out my knife, slid the blade between the cracks, and pried the board open. Dust spilled out. Beneath it lay a folded envelope, yellowed and tied with thin string. My heart started pounding. Clara covered her mouth. Oh, Lord! The paper was brittle. I lifted it carefully, untied the string, and opened the flap. Inside was a single page, covered in shaky handwriting. I read the first line aloud. To my wife, Clara, if this ever finds you. Her breath caught. It's his handwriting. I felt her hand on my arm. It trembled. I kept reading quietly. The sheriff forced me to sign the land papers. Said he'd forgive the debt, but he lied. He plans to take everything. If I don't bring proof by Monday, he'll kill me and say it was a fall from the hill. The words blurred for a second. Clara's lips parted, no sound coming out. He knew, she whispered. He knew he wouldn't come home. I couldn't look at her. I kept reading. I hid the ledger from Pike's office. It shows every stolen coin. It's buried near the north fence post, under the old rock where we carved our initials. If you find this, tell the truth. Don't be afraid. Forgive me for leaving you alone. The last words faded into smudges of ink. The silence afterward felt too big for the room. Clara knelt down, clutching the letter to her chest. He was trying to protect us, she said softly. He died for this, I swallowed. The sheriff killed him. She nodded slowly, tears dripping onto the paper. He killed him, and everyone just believed it was an accident. I stared at the open floor. My hand gripped the hammer tight. Then we're not letting him keep what he stole. She looked up. You can't fight him. He's the law here. I've seen what law looks like in dirty hands, I said. If this letter's true, that man's a thief and a murderer. The town needs to know, her voice cracked. He'll kill you too. I've been dead for years, I said quietly. Since the fire took my wife and son, her eyes softened. I didn't know. Wasn't your fault. I stared at the window. The sky was turning gray, the smell of rain in the air. But maybe this, helping you, maybe it means something. She shook her head, gripping the letter tighter. You don't owe me anything, I know, I said. But I owe him peace. He trusted someone would finish what he started. I reached for the letter again. We need to find that ledger. Clara stood, wiping her face with her sleeve. It's by the north fence, she said. He said he buried something there once. I thought it was money. We stepped outside. The wind carried the sound of Eli chopping wood and Lily singing to the hens. Clara held the letter close to her chest, as if it were still warm. We walked across the yard. The sky was heavy with clouds, and the air felt charged. The north fence stood near the line of trees, half-rotted posts leaning like old men. Clara pointed. That one. The rock with the carved letters. I knelt and brushed the dirt away. Sure enough, 2 initials, HB and CB, carved side by side. I dug with my hands, the earth soft from the last rain. My fingers hit metal, a small tin box. Rusted, dented, but real. I pulled it out and opened the lid. Inside were folded pages, ink-stained, stamped with the sheriff's seal. Clara gasped. That's his ledger. I flipped through the papers. Rows of names, amounts, and false debts. The sheriff's signature on every page. This is enough, I said. We can prove everything. She covered her mouth, trembling. I don't know what to do. You let me handle it, I said. No, Tom, she said, shaking her head. You'll get hurt. I've been hurt before. Lightning flashed in the distance. She looked at me, eyes wet. Why are you helping us? I took a breath. Because when I first saw you, I thought you were just another soul trying to survive. But you're more than that. You're what's left of something good in this place. And maybe I want to see good win again. She stared at me, silent. Then she said, he'd thank you. If he were here. I looked down at the ledger. Then I'll take his thanks later. Rain started falling, slow at first, then steady. The pages got speckled with drops. We ran back to the porch. She held the box tight under her arm. The children were already inside, peeking through the window. Go dry them off, I told her. I'll lock this up. She nodded and went inside. I sat on the porch rail, watching the rain hit the dirt. My chest felt heavy but alive. I opened the ledger again. The sheriff had taken money from nearly every farmer within 20 miles. And somehow no one had spoken. Fear did that to people. I knew the feeling. When my wife died, folks stayed quiet too. No one stopped to ask if I needed help. They just looked away. Maybe that's why I couldn't walk away from Clara now. The door creaked open. Clara stepped out, a blanket around her shoulders. The children are asleep, she said. Good, I said softly. They need rest. She came closer, standing beside me. The rain turned the yard into a blur of silver. What will you do? She asked. I'll go to Martha first. She knows everyone in town. She can spread the truth before the sheriff can twist it. She bit her lip. And if he finds out you have this? Then he'll come for me. She stared at me in fear. You can't face him alone. I'm not alone anymore, I said. She looked away, tears shining in the rain. You shouldn't make promises, Tom. Promises get people killed. I've already made one, I said. To your husband. To finish what he started, she turned toward me slowly. And to me? I met her eyes. To keep you safe. Her lip trembled. That's 2 promises. I can handle two. She gave a small laugh through her tears. You don't even know how much trouble you're in. I've lived in trouble most my life, I said. Just didn't have anyone worth the trouble before. Her smile faded to something softer. You're a fool, Tom Grady. Maybe, I said, but I'm your fool now. The rain fell harder. She stepped closer, her shoulder brushing mine. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Only the sound of rain on the tin roof. I don't want anyone else hurt because of me, she whispered. Then we hurt together, I said. She turned toward the door. Get some rest, she said. Tomorrow will be hard. I nodded, watching her walk back inside. When the door shut, I looked at the box again. The ledger, the letter, the proof of a man's murder. All in my hands. I whispered to the empty rain. I'll see this through. I swear it, the thunder rolled like an answer. I stayed there a while, watching the horizon flash with light, the rain washing over the land that once belonged to a dead man's dream. By morning, it would belong to truth. The night was quiet when it started. Too quiet. Even the wind stopped moving. I sat by the lamp, reading an old ledger, when I smelled smoke. Not from the stove. Thicker. Bitter. I stood up fast. Clara! She came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands. What is it? Smoke, I said. You smell it? Her eyes went wide. The barn. We ran outside. The sky glowed orange behind the trees. Flames licked the roof of the barn like hungry hands. The horses screamed inside. I heard Eli shout, Eli! Clara screamed. Eli's in there! I grabbed a bucket and ran, but the fire was already spreading fast. The hay caught like dry paper. I could feel the heat burn my face. Eli! I yelled again. I'm here! His voice came from inside, near the stalls. The horse won't move! Get out! I shouted. He didn't answer. Clara tried to run in, but I grabbed her arm. Stay back. He's my boy, she cried, struggling. I'll get him, I said, and ran through the open door. The smoke hit me hard. My eyes stung. I could barely see, only shadows and light. The horse kicked in panic. Eli was pulling on the reins, coughing hard. Let go, I shouted. He'll die! You'll die if you stay. I ran forward, grabbed Eli, and pushed him toward the door. The horse kicked again, hitting a beam. Sparks fell. The sound roared in my ears. We stumbled out together. Clara fell to her knees beside us, hugging him tight. Eli, you fool boy! He coughed, eyes wet. I tried to help. You helped enough, I said, panting. You're alive. That's what matters. The flames climbed higher. The roof gave a loud crack. We backed away as it collapsed. Embers flew into the night sky, lighting the field like stars. Lily came running from the house, crying. Mama, the animals! I turned. We can still get the cows. Clara looked at me, terrified. The back pen. I ran around the barn's side, covering my face. The heat was fierce. My boots stuck in the mud. The cows were trapped behind the fence, bawling. I opened the gate and slapped their backs. Go! Move! They ran out, scattering toward the pasture. One stumbled, and I pushed her along. My lungs burned, but I didn't stop. When I turned back, I saw him, a shadow on the ridge. A man on a horse watching, still as stone. The firelight flickered on his badge. Sheriff Pike. My blood boiled. He sat there calm, the glow of the fire shining on his face. Then he turned his horse and rode away. Clara, I shouted. He was here. She looked at me, shaking her head. Who? The sheriff. Her face turned pale. He did this? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. We both knew. Eli tried to stand, limping. I saw someone near the barn, he said. Before it burned, he dropped something. I ran back toward the ashes. The barn groaned, half fallen, but I saw metal glinting near the doorway. I used a stick to drag it out. A lantern smashed and dented. Not ours, I said. Clara covered her mouth. He means to ruin you. He already tried, I said, tossing the lantern aside. He just made it clearer. The wind shifted, carrying black smoke across the field. I coughed, pulled Eli closer. Let's get you inside. We went to the house. Lily followed, clutching Clara's skirt. I washed Eli's arm, burned but not deep. He winced but stayed quiet. You're brave, son, I said softly. Clara looked at me when I said it. Son? She whispered. I nodded. He earned it. She looked down, eyes full of tears. You shouldn't have risked yourself for us. I leaned back, breathing hard. You think I care about that? I do, she said. If you lose everything, it'll be my fault. Your fault. I almost laughed, but it came out bitter. You think this farm means more to me than people? Her lips trembled. You bought this land to start over. I bought it because it was empty, I said. Because silence was the only thing I had left. But you came and suddenly it wasn't empty anymore. She wiped her face. Tom, I already lost everything once, I said. I won't again. The room went quiet. Only the crackle of the small fire in the stove filled it. Outside, the barn still burned, but I didn't care about the wood. I cared about the people in front of me. Eli looked up. You saw the sheriff? Yes. Will you tell the town? Not yet, I said. We need proof. I can talk, he said. No. I shook my head. You'll rest. That's my job now. Clara reached out and touched my hand. You're a good man. I turned my palm upward and held hers for a second. Not always, I said. But I'm trying. We sat there in silence for a while. The smell of smoke still filled the air. I could hear the cows lowing in the distance, restless. The night was alive with the sound of loss. Then Lily spoke. Will the barn come back? Clara smiled faintly. We'll build another. Will Mr. Tom help? I smiled at her. He'll be the first with a hammer. She grinned, gap-toothed, innocent. Then it'll be stronger. Clara looked at her daughter and nodded. Yes, stronger. Later, after the children slept, I went back outside. The barn was just black bones now. Smoke rose into the cold air. I kicked at the dirt, tired and angry. Martha Cole came walking down the hill, carrying a lantern. I saw the fire, she said. You all right? We are, I said. Barn's gone, though. She shook her head. Could have been worse. Heard the sheriff rode past my place an hour ago. Looked pleased with himself. I stared at the ground. He was here. Martha cursed under her breath. That snake. You'll have to tell the marshal. I will, I said. But not yet. He'll expect that. She looked at me closely. What are you planning? Something he won't expect, I said. Martha sighed. Don't let hate eat you, Tom. I seen what it does. It's not hate, I said quietly. It's justice. She stared at me a moment longer, then nodded. You be careful. Clara needs you now. When she left, I stood watching the ashes. The moon came out, silver over the fields. My shadow stretched long. I thought about my wife, her voice, her laughter, the night I lost her. That pain had built a wall in me, but tonight that wall cracked. I looked back at the house. Light still glowed through the window. Clara was sitting by Eli's bed, brushing his hair back with her hand. She looked up and saw me through the glass. For a moment our eyes met. She didn't smile, but she didn't look away either. I walked closer to the window and leaned against the wall. My chest felt tight, but it wasn't pain. It was something else. Something I hadn't felt in years. When the fire died out, I sat on the porch steps and watched the smoke drift into the stars. The night air was cool now, clean again. The farm was wounded but alive. I could rebuild wood and stone. But trust, and that took more. I thought of what Clara said. If you lose everything, it'll be my fault. She was wrong. Because losing everything had already happened once. And somehow I was still here. Maybe this time I'd found a reason to stay. The rooster crowed too early, nervous from the smoke. Dawn was still far away. I walked to the edge of the field and looked east. The horizon glowed faint red, like the fire's ghost. I took a breath and whispered to the wind. You won't win, Pike, not this time. The words felt strange on my tongue. Not anger, not revenge. Something steadier, something alive. When I turned back toward the house, I saw Clara standing at the door, a blanket around her shoulders. She spoke softly. You should sleep. Can't, I said. Too much to think about. She stepped closer, her eyes soft in the pale light. Then think with me, I smiled faintly. That a promise? It is, she said. We stood there as the first morning light touched the smoke. The barn was gone, but something new stood in its place, a promise we hadn't made yet, but both already kept. For the first time, I meant every word I'd said. The sun came up red that morning. The air felt dry, thin, and heavy. I rode into town slow, my heart beating harder than the horse's hooves. Every window watched me pass. I could feel eyes behind the curtains. Martha was standing outside her store. Tom, she said, voice low, don't do something foolish. I'm past foolish, I said. I'm here for truth. She looked at me like she wanted to stop me, but she didn't. The sheriff's office stood quiet at the end of the street. Dust rolled under my boots as I walked to the door. People came out one by one. Blacksmith, storekeeper, even old Pastor Hale. They followed behind, whispering. Everyone had something stolen by that man. They just never had proof. I pushed the door open. Sheriff Pike sat behind his desk, hat low, boots up. "Well," he said, smirking, "the hero rancher, come to thank me?" "For what?" I asked. "For buying peace," he said, "for knowing when to keep quiet." I stepped closer. "I'm not quiet anymore," I said. He chuckled, leaned back. "Careful, Tom. Guns don't care who's right." "I didn't come to shoot," I said. "I came to talk." "Talk?" he said. "Then talk fast." He stood, heavy boots creaking on the wood floor. His hand brushed the revolver at his side. I didn't move. My voice shook, but I kept it steady. "You took this farm from Clara Bennett. You forged her husband's debt. You made him sign a false note before he died." The sheriff laughed. "You got proof?" I reached into my coat and pulled out the letter. His eyes went sharp. "This," I said, "was under the floorboards. His words. His hand. He wrote what you did." He slammed the desk. "Fake," he barked. "You think people will believe a widow's sob story?" "They'll believe me," I said. The door swung open. Jonas Pike stood there, young face pale, hat in hand. "Uncle," he said, voice shaking, "I can't do it anymore." The sheriff turned. "Jonas, not now." But Jonas stepped inside. He looked at me, then at the crowd forming outside. "I saw him take the deeds," Jonas said. "I saw him burn the names and write his own." The sheriff's face went red. "Boy, you don't know what you're saying." "I know enough," Jonas said. "He told me to keep quiet or lose my badge." I felt the room tighten like a rope around my chest. The sheriff pulled his gun slow, like he was tired but ready. Jonas flinched. "Put it down," I said. He didn't. He pointed it between us. "You're ruining everything," he hissed. "I'm saving what's left," I said. Clara's voice came from the door. She stepped forward, trembling but proud. "You ruined my husband," she said. "You made him believe he failed us. You made him die with shame." "Woman," Pike said, his hand shaking. "You don't speak to me like that." "I'll speak truth," she said. "That's more than you ever did." The crowd outside had grown. Dozens now. I could hear murmurs, names, debts, anger. The sheriff turned toward the window, then back at me. "Walk away, Tom. Take your charity farm and walk away." "I can't," I said. "Not when you're still standing." He cocked the hammer. The click echoed like thunder in my skull. Jonas moved fast, stepping between us. "Don't!" he shouted. The sheriff's gun fired. The sound tore through the room. Smoke filled the air. Jonas fell to his knees, clutching his arm. He wasn't dead, but blood ran down fast. Clara screamed. I drew my revolver, hand steady but heart shaking. "Drop it," I said. He hesitated. "Drop it," I roared. He did. It hit the floor with a dull thud. Outside, the crowd started shouting, voices rising like a wave. "Thief! Liar! Arrest him!" I picked up the gun, held it low. Jonas looked up at me, pale but breathing. "I kept the copies," he whispered. "The real deeds. In the church vault." His words carried like wind. Pastor Hale, standing in the doorway, nodded slowly. "I've seen them too," he said. "Enough to end this." The sheriff's face cracked, all pride gone. He looked small, beaten. "This town will fall without me," he muttered. "No," I said. "It'll finally stand." Deputy Carter, the blacksmith's son, stepped forward with iron cuffs. "You're done, Sheriff." The crowd parted as they dragged him out. No one spoke. Even the horses went still. I turned to Jonas, helped him stand. "You did right," I said. He winced, smiling weakly. "Late, but right." Clara walked up beside me. Her eyes met mine, tired, wet, full of fire. "You could have killed him," she whispered. "I almost did," I said, "but that's not what we needed." What did we need? The truth, I said. And you? She looked away, wiping her face. Outside, the crowd followed as the sheriff was led to the jailhouse he once ruled. For the first time, he wasn't wearing his badge. He was just a man, smaller than his hat. Martha came up beside me. "Tom," she said softly, "you did it." "No," I said. "We did." She smiled. "Don't you forget to breathe now." I walked out into the street. The dust shimmered in the sunlight. People were still talking, voices mixing, some angry, some relieved. The air felt lighter, like the whole town exhaled after years of holding breath. Clara followed me to the porch of the general store. She touched my sleeve. "You didn't have to stand for us," she said. "I couldn't stand by," I said. "You risked your name." "I lost that long ago," I said. "Maybe I found it here." Eli and Lily ran from the edge of the crowd. They hugged their mother's legs tight. Lily looked up at me. "Is the bad man gone?" she asked. "He is," I said. "Forever?" "For good," I said, and smiled. Pastor Hale came over holding the stack of old deeds. He placed them in Clara's hands. "These belong to you now," he said. Clara stared at the papers like they were fire. Tears fell on them, darkening the ink. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say you'll stay," I said. Her eyes lifted to mine. "I don't want charity." "It's not charity," I said. "It's home." She breathed deep, looking around at the people cheering, the dust rising, the sound of hammers from men already fixing what the sheriff broke. "This place was built on lies," she said. "Then let's rebuild it on truth," I said. The sun burned higher, golden and warm. Jonas sat nearby, his arm wrapped, smiling faintly at us. He said, "Funny thing, truth always costs blood." "It's worth the price," I said. The sheriff was gone now, locked up in the same cell where he kept his victims. The badge on his desk still glimmered in the morning light. I walked back inside, picked it up, and placed it on the table. It looked heavy, not from metal, but from years of pride and greed. Martha's voice came from the doorway. "You keeping it?" "No," I said. "I'm keeping the peace it owed us." She nodded. "That's better." Outside, Clara waited by the hitching post. The wind tugged her hair loose. She looked at me. No fear, no shame. Just quiet understanding. I stepped closer. "What now?" I asked. She smiled softly. "We start over," she said. I nodded. "I could use some help on the farm." She tilted her head. "You mean my farm?" I smiled. "Our farm." For a moment the world went still. The same river that once took everything from me now ran behind the town, bright and alive. Its sound reached us faintly, soft, steady, like breathing. Clara looked toward it. "You hear that?" she said. "I do," I said. "Sounds like peace." The wind picked up again. Dust rose, sunlight danced on broken glass, and the town, my town now, began to live again. And as I watched the people I once called strangers rebuild what we lost, I realized something simple. Truth doesn't end a story, it starts one. The wind blew soft that morning. The smell of wood and hay filled the air. The barn stood half broken, black from the fire. I looked at it and said, "We'll start again today." Clara stood beside me, her eyes steady. "We?" she asked, her voice small. "Yeah," I said. "You, me, and the kids." Eli came running from the house with a hammer too big for his hand. "Can I help?" he asked. I smiled a little. "You sure can." He nodded fast. "Ma said I can lift wood now." Clara frowned. "He'll hurt himself." "He won't," I said. "I'll keep an eye on him." She looked at me for a long second, then sighed. "Fine, but if he drops that hammer, you catch it." "I will," I said. The sun climbed higher as we worked. The sound of nails and wood mixed with the call of birds. For a while there was only that sound. Work, sweat, and quiet peace. Eli dropped a nail and groaned. "Why's it so hard to make a barn?" I laughed. "Because good things take time." He looked at me confused. "Even people?" "Especially people," I said. He didn't answer, but he smiled before running off to fetch more nails. Clara carried a plank to the side wall. I took one end from her. "It's heavy," I said. She shook her head. "I've carried worse." You shouldn't have to, I said. She set the wood down and wiped her hands. We all carry what we must. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were tired. I wanted to tell her to rest, but I didn't. She wouldn't listen. Lily came skipping from the porch, her little hands holding a basket. I brought bread, she said proudly. Clara smiled, the kind of smile that warmed the air. Thank you, sweetheart. I watched her help her daughter break the bread. For a moment, the fire, the pain, the loss, all of it felt far away. We ate sitting on the ground, backs against the barn wall. Eli munched noisily. Lily laughed. Clara looked at me. You fixed the fence too? Had to, I said. Cows would have run off otherwise. Her brow lifted slightly. You care more for those cows than yourself. I care for what's still alive, I said. Her face softened. So do I. We sat in silence. The sky stretched blue above us. I looked at her hands, rough, red, and cracked from work. She caught me staring. What? She asked. Nothing, I said. Just, your hands look like mine, she smiled faintly. Then I'm in good company. After lunch, she went back to work. She moved like someone used to pain, quiet, steady, never stopping. I watched her lift wood, tie rope, hammer nails. She didn't need my help as much as she thought. At one point, I said, You don't have to prove anything, Clara. She didn't look up. I'm not proving. I'm surviving. I stopped working and leaned on the post. You've already done that. Her hammer paused midair. You think it's over? I think it can be, I said softly. She looked at me, really looked at me, as if weighing my words. Then she said, Peace doesn't come easy. No, I agreed. But it's worth building. We went on working until the sun began to fall. The air cooled, the fields glowed gold. I saw the kids chasing each other near the fence, their laughter echoing across the yard. Listen to that, I said. Sounds like life again. Clara stopped hammering. Her eyes followed the children. I thought I'd never hear that sound again, she whispered. You made it happen, I said. She shook her head. You did, I smiled. No, Clara, you did this. You kept them alive. She stared down at her hands again. Alive, yes. But I wasn't living. I looked at her, the way the light touched her hair. You are now, she didn't answer. But I saw it, the faintest tear in her eye, not of pain, but of release. We stood by the new barn wall, both of us quiet. I could smell the fresh pine boards, the sweat on my skin, the faint sweetness of bread still on the air. After a long pause, she said, You never told me why you bought this place. I took off my hat and rubbed my neck. I wanted silence. Silence? She asked. You found anything but that, I chuckled. Yeah, I suppose I did. What were you running from? I hesitated. Myself. My wife died here on this land. She froze. Here? Not this farm, I said. Mine, but it doesn't matter. She's gone. I thought buying another place would change the ghosts. Clara's voice softened. Did it? I looked around. The barn, the children, the light fading slow. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I just found better ghosts. She smiled then. Small, shy, but real. You're strange, Mr. Grady. I've been told worse, I said. She laughed. Not loud, but honest. It was the first time I'd heard it. It broke something in me, something heavy I'd carried too long. As night came, we lit a lantern. The new roof gleamed in the glow. Eli ran up, breathless. Pa! He stopped himself, eyes wide. I mean, Mr. Grady, Clara stiffened. I laughed softly. That's all right, kid. I've been called worse too. Lily tugged on Clara's skirt. Can we sleep in the barn tonight? It smells nice. Clara hesitated. No, sweetheart. Not yet. I looked at her. Let them, I said quietly. Let the barn be home again. She thought about it, then nodded slowly. All right. Just tonight. The children cheered and ran inside, their laughter bouncing off the wood. Clara stood watching them. They used to play here with their father, she said. Before everything, I nodded. Now they can again. She turned toward me. Thank you, I shook my head. You don't owe me thanks. She stepped closer, eyes searching mine. Then what do I owe you? Nothing, I said. Not a thing, she smiled. I'm tired but peaceful. You keep saying that, because it's true. Her gaze softened. You gave us back more than land, Tom. You gave us hope. I didn't know what to say. So I just said, you did this, not me. She looked at me, long and quiet. Maybe we both did. The night wrapped around us, warm and still. The stars came out one by one. Inside the barn, the children giggled under a blanket of hay. I sat on the porch steps, listening to the crickets. Clara joined me, her arms wrapped around her knees. "It feels different," she said. "It is different," I answered, "like the air's lighter." "It is," I said. "You lifted it." She looked at me sideways. "You always talk like that." "Only when I mean it," she smiled again, this time wider. "Then keep meaning it." I nodded. "I will." We sat there for a long time without words. The kind of silence that doesn't hurt. The kind that feels earned. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "I used to think strength was not crying. And now?" I asked. "Now I think it's getting up again," she said. I looked at her, the way the starlight touched her face. "You've been getting up for a long time." Her eyes met mine. "So have you." We didn't say more. We didn't need to. The barn stood tall again, the sound of life filling the night. For the first time, it didn't feel like I was fixing someone else's past. It felt like we were building our future. The church bell rang slow that morning. It echoed across the fields, deep and steady. I walked beside Clara, her children close behind. Eli held Lily's hand like he always did. The wooden cross above the door looked brighter than usual. Maybe it was the sunlight, or maybe it was peace coming early. "Do we have to go in?" Clara whispered. "Yes," I said softly. "It's time." She clutched the folded letter against her chest. Her fingers shook, but her eyes stayed steady. "This letter was meant for him," she said. I nodded. "Now it'll set him free." Inside, the church smelled of old pine and dust. People filled the benches, neighbors, ranchers, even the sheriff's deputy. I saw Martha in the front pew, her hands clasped tight. Pastor Hale stood near the pulpit, calm but serious. He greeted us with a nod. "Are you ready?" he asked. Clara looked down, then up. "Yes, sir. I'm ready." We sat near the front. The air was heavy with waiting. No one spoke above a whisper. The sheriff's name had been all over town for weeks. But today it wasn't about him. It was about the man he broke. The man no one remembered right. Pastor Hale cleared his throat and raised his hand. "Friends," he began, "we gather to hear truth." His voice echoed through the wooden beams. "A truth long buried under lies." Clara's breath caught. She looked at me once, her lips trembling. I gave her a small nod. She unfolded the letter and handed it to him. The paper was yellowed, edges torn, but words still clear. The pastor read slowly, his voice soft but firm. "If anyone finds this, know that I never took what they say I did. The land was ours, bought fair." The sheriff lied. "He forged my name. I kept records hidden in the barn rafters. If I don't return, tell Clara I'm sorry. Tell my children I love them." Gasps filled the church. A few people turned to look at each other. Someone whispered, "Lord have mercy." The pastor continued, "I tried to fight him. I went to his office. He smiled and said no one would believe me. I think he was right. But I write this because someday, someone honest might." He lowered the paper. Silence fell so deep I could hear the wind outside. Then he said quietly, "This man was not a thief. He was a victim." Clara broke. Her sobs filled the church. I reached for her hand. Her grip was cold, desperate. Eli climbed onto the bench and hugged her arm. Lily leaned against her shoulder, eyes wet but calm. Pastor Hale turned toward the crowd. "His truth is now known," he said. "May we show the same mercy we ask for." I looked around. People stared at Clara, not with pity this time, but respect. Even those who once turned her away now lowered their heads. Martha stood, wiping her eyes. "I knew he wasn't no liar," she said. Then others followed. One by one they stood. Men removed their hats. Women nodded softly. The sound of boots shifting on the wood floor filled the space. I felt something break inside me, in a good way. For years I'd carried guilt for not saving my own family. But now, watching hers find peace, I felt lighter. After the service, Pastor Hale called out, "Mrs. Bennett?" She turned slowly. He smiled kindly. "Your husband's name will be cleared in the records." "I'll see to it." Tears shone in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. Outside, the air was warm and gentle. The sky looked washed clean after a storm. Eli ran ahead, laughing for the first time in months. He picked up a stick and waved it like a sword. "Ma, look! I'm fighting bad men!" Clara laughed through her tears. "Not today, Eli," she said. "Today we rest." Lily tugged my hand. "Mr. Tom," she said softly, "is Pa in heaven now?" I knelt beside her. "Yes, Lily, he is." She smiled, small and brave. Then he's not mad anymore. I felt my throat tighten. No, sweetheart. He's proud. Clara came closer, brushing her daughter's hair back. She talks about him every night, she said quietly. That's good, I replied. He should be remembered. We walked toward the wagon parked by the fence. A few townsfolk came over. One man, old gray shaking, tipped his hat. Mrs. Bennett, he said, I'm sorry for not believing you. Clara nodded kindly. It's over now. Martha handed her a loaf of bread. Fresh this morning, she said. For you and the little ones. Clara smiled faintly. You didn't have to. I wanted to, Martha said. We all did. When they left, Clara turned to me. Do you think he heard it? She asked. I knew who she meant. Yes, I said. Every word. We rode home in silence, the wagon creaking softly. The children dozed in the back, sunlight on their faces. The fields rolled by, gold and alive. I thought about how far we'd come. From that first night in the barn to this morning in church. I'd thought I was buying land to forget. But somehow I'd bought my way back into life. At the gate, Clara touched my arm. Tom, she said quietly, I don't know how to thank you. You already did, I said. She tilted her head. When? When you stopped being afraid. She smiled then, tired, soft, but real. You helped me remember who I was, she said. You helped me remember what it means to keep a promise. Her voice cracked on the last word. I looked at her for a long time. Your husband kept his, I said. Even from the grave. We reached the farmhouse as the sun began to fall. The barn still smelled faintly of smoke from the fire months ago, but the new boards gleamed golden. Eli jumped off the wagon and ran to the door. Ma, come look! The roses opened! Clara gasped when she saw them. Bright pink and red, blooming by the porch. She knelt, touching one gently. Your wife planted these, didn't she? I nodded slowly. Years ago. She looked up at me. They came back. Some things do, I said. That night, we ate together under the lamp. Eli told wild stories about fighting bandits. Lily sang a song she made up. Clara laughed. Real laughter this time. I just watched them. The sound of their voices filled the house like music. After the children slept, Clara stood by the window. The moonlight touched her face. I used to pray every night, she said softly, for someone to help us, for the truth to come out. She looked over at me. And you showed up. I shook my head. I didn't plan to. Maybe not, she said, smiling faintly. But you were meant to. For a while, we just listened to the wind. It moved through the open window, gentle and clean. The smell of earth and hay drifted in. Then she said quietly, You lost someone too, didn't you? I swallowed hard. Yes. She turned fully toward me. Was it your wife? I nodded. And our boy. She came closer, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry, she said. I tried to smile. It was a long time ago, but it still hurts, she said. I didn't deny it. Some things never stop hurting, I admitted. She reached out and touched my hand. Then maybe we both start again. I didn't know what to say. The world felt still, like it was listening. I looked at her, this woman who had lost everything, yet still stood tall. Her strength humbled me. Finally, I said, We already did. She smiled again. Small, warm, real. Outside, the church bell rang once more, far in the distance. The sound floated through the night air, soft as forgiveness, and for the first time in years I felt forgiven too. The first spring after the fire came soft and slow. The snow melted into the fields, and the grass grew where ashes once lay. Every morning I woke to the sound of Eli chopping wood, the steady rhythm like a heartbeat across the yard. Sometimes I stood by the window, coffee in hand, watching him swing the axe. His arms were stronger now. His eyes too. Morning, Pa, he called once, without thinking. I froze. The word hung in the air like smoke. He went pale, dropped the axe, and stammered. I didn't mean, but I smiled. It's fine, son. He stared at me for a long second, then nodded and went back to work. Later that day, Clara and Lily came back from town with a basket of seeds. Clara's cheeks were red from the wind, her brown hair tied back. We found rose roots, she said. Thought we'd plant them by the porch. Roses? I asked, pretending to frown. Ain't that fancy for folks like us? She laughed. We're allowed a little pretty, Tom. Lily held up her small hands. Can I plant the pink ones? You can plant every color you want, I said. We spent that afternoon on our knees in the dirt. The ground was soft, full of life again. The same soil that once buried pain now held promise. When the sun dropped low, Clara brushed her hands and looked at me. "The land's yours again. You rebuilt it." "No," I said quietly. "We rebuilt it," she smiled. That slow, tired smile that always reached her eyes last. "You're not the man I met in that barn." "I hope not," I said. For a while, we just sat there, watching the sky turn orange. I thought of everything. The sheriff, the fire, the letter, the years I'd spent running from ghosts. Somehow all those roads led me here. That night after supper, we sat around the table. The light from the oil lamp flickered against the cabin walls. Eli showed me a wooden toy horse he'd carved. "Look," he said proudly. "Made it myself." "It's good," I said. "Better than my first one." "You made toys?" Lily asked. "Once," I said. "For my boy." Clara looked up from her plate. "You never talk much about him." "There's not much to say," I whispered.
He and his ma?
They were gone before I could fix things. Silence filled the room, soft and respectful. Lily reached over and took my hand. "You can have us now," she said in her small voice. I swallowed hard. Guess I already do. After dinner, Clara cleaned the table while I sat by the fire. The children played on the floor, chasing shadows with a stick and string. The sound of their laughter filled every corner of the room. For years, I'd lived with only the sound of wind and memory. Now I didn't know how I ever called that life. Clara poured coffee and handed me a cup. "You've done enough for us," she said softly. "I didn't do it for thanks." "I know," she said. "That's why it means more." The fire cracked. Outside, the wind brushed against the shutters like an old friend passing by. "You ever think about leaving?" I asked. She shook her head. "Not anymore. The world out there's big, but it's empty. Here it feels right." "It does," I said. She looked into the flames. "When I first met you, I thought you were heartless." "I was," I admitted. "You just made it harder to stay that way." She laughed under her breath. "Maybe we saved each other." "Maybe," I said, smiling. "Or maybe this land saved us all." When the children went to bed, we stepped outside. The sky stretched wide and clean, stars shining like promises. The roses we planted stood dark against the earth, waiting for dawn. "I still can't believe how far we've come," she said. "I can," I said. "You're stubborn," she elbowed me gently. "Takes one to know one." The night smelled like wet soil and hope. I leaned against the porch post, staring at the horizon. For once I didn't see ghosts, just light. "Remember when I tried to make you leave?" I asked. "I remember," she said. "I almost did." "I'm glad you didn't." "Me too." She turned toward me. "Tom," she said softly, "why did you really let us stay?" I looked down at my hands, rough and scarred. "Because I knew what it felt like to lose everything. And now I know what it feels like to have it back." She didn't speak for a while. Then she stepped closer. "You gave me land," she said. "I gave you peace," I smiled. "Then we're even," she shook her head. "No, you gave me a home." Her words settled deep in me, heavier than gold. That night, after she went inside, I stayed out under the stars. I thought about my wife, her laugh, her hands, the way she'd hum when the wind turned cold. I whispered into the quiet, "I hope you'd be proud." The next morning, Eli woke me early. "Come outside, Pa," he shouted, the word again, Pa. This time it didn't ache. He pulled me to the porch. "Look," he said. They bloomed. The roses. All of them. Red, pink, white, shining in the soft light of dawn. Clara stood there too, her hair loose, her dress brushing the petals. I felt something shift inside me, not the old pain, but something gentler. "They're beautiful," I said. She nodded. "So's this life." Lily ran up and hugged my leg. "We made it pretty, didn't we?" "You sure did." We spent that morning fixing the fence, feeding the animals, laughing more than working. Clara hummed while she hung the laundry, and Eli tried to teach me how to carve better. "You hold it like this," he said. "You sure?" "Yeah, Pa, trust me." That word again. Still warm, still strange. I let it be. At noon, Martha Cole rode up with a basket of bread. "Well, I'll be," she said, looking around. "You've turned this place into a real home." "Didn't do it alone," I said. She grinned. "No one ever does, Tom." That evening we ate together on the porch. The table was old, the food simple, but it felt like a feast. Clara's eyes caught the light of the sunset. Eli told stories that made Lily giggle so hard she spilled her milk. Afterward, the sky turned red, then purple, then gold. Clara leaned back and whispered, "It's strange, isn't it? How life comes back." "It always does," I said. "You just have to stay long enough to see it." She looked at me for a long time, her eyes soft. "You're not the man you were." "No," I said. "But maybe I'm the man I was meant to be," she smiled. "Then you finally found home." "Yeah," I whispered. Home found me. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of roses across the porch. The children had fallen asleep against each other. Clara reached for my hand, and I took it without thinking. It fit there easy, like it was always meant to. We sat in silence, the kind that doesn't need filling. I watched the lantern light dance across her face, the peace there, the strength. "You ever think your husband's still watching?" I asked quietly. "I hope so," she said. "I'd like to think he sees what you did for us." I looked at her and said, "I didn't save you, Clara." "I know," she said with a smile. We saved each other. Later, when the fire burned low and the crickets began to sing, I stood at the edge of the porch, staring at the stars. The night air felt gentle, almost forgiving. I thought of all I'd lost, and all I'd found. The ghosts were gone now, replaced by laughter, warmth, and love I never thought I'd feel again. I took one last look at the house, at the woman and children inside, and whispered to the quiet, I wasn't saving them. They were saving me. And for the first time in years, my heart felt full, not with gold, but with grace.